Hello, boys and girls. We are looking at our next thing, which is least common multiple, which is lesson 4-8 out of our textbook. And our learning target for today says, I can find the least common multiple of two or more numbers. Remember to be writing down your learning targets. We have some new vocab to look at here. A multiple is the product of a number and any whole number. And so today we are looking at the least common multiple, which is of two or more numbers, and it is the least or the smallest of their common multiples excluding 0. Okay, so our multiples, for example, if we were to look at the multiples of 3, well, 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. So on and so forth. So all of these are multiples of 3, the numbers that 3 multiplies into. So there's a couple different methods here for finding least common multiple. One of them is to list the non-zeros, so we're looking at 6 and 10. So we would list the non-zero multiples of 6. Well, 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, times 4 is 24, 30, 36, and so on. And then our multiples of 10 are going to be 10, 10 times 2 is 20, times 3 is 30, times 4 is 40, and so on. Now we look at these multiples of our 6 and our 10, and we find what is the smallest number between both of them. Well, I see we have 30 here. So our least common multiple between 6 and 10 is going to be 30. Okay. Our other method here is to do prime factorization of both numbers. So starting with the prime factorization of 6, that can split into 2 and 3. Those are our prime numbers there. So we have 2 times 3. Our prime factorization of 10 is going to be 2 and 5, both of those being prime. So 2 times 5. Okay. Now we take our, we look at the numbers here. We have a 2, so we're taking each prime number between both of these. So we have a 2. Now it shows up twice, but we only take it one time. Now we have a 3 and a 5. So we're just looking at these prime numbers here, and we're taking each one of them. But where there's multiples of them, or where it shows up more than once, so for example the 2, it's in there twice, we only take one of those. Then we multiply these together. 2 times 3 is 6, times 5 equals 30. So again, our least common multiple for this is going to be 30. So whichever method you use, you will get the same answer either way. Alright, so we are looking at finding the least common multiple of 45 and 75. Now remember, there are two methods. We can list the multiples, or we can use prime factorization. I'm going to do prime factorization for this one for extra, because that one tends to be more difficult. So we'll start with 45, which can split into 5 and 9, 5 being prime. That splits into 3 and 3, both of those prime. So we have 5 times 3, which written with our exponents would be 5 times 3 squared. 75 splits into 3 and 25, 3 being prime. 25 splits into 5 and 5, both of those being prime, which is 3 times 5, or 3 times 5 squared. Okay, now our next step was to look between the two and to take each of the prime numbers from there. But if you look here, it says the least common multiple is the product, or what we multiply together, of the prime factors 3 and 5, with each one raised to the highest power. It occurs in either prime factorization. Okay, so what exactly does that mean? Well, if we look at our prime factorization for both 45 and 75, we notice that there's a 5 in both of them, but in one of them it's raised to the second power, so that is the highest power, so we're going to take the 5 squared. And then we also are looking at we have a 3 in both of them, but here it's raised to the second power, and again we're looking for that highest power between the two, which is 3 squared. Do our multiplication, which is 25 times 9. Okay. Now 25 times 9 equals 225. So our least common multiple, for 45 and 75 is going to be 225. So that's saying the smallest number that both 45 and 75 multiply into is 225. Okay, here's a few for us to practice together. First one, 3 and 12. Those are both small numbers, so I'm going to write out the multiples for it. For 3, our multiples are 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. I'm going to stop there. For 12, they are 12, 24, 36. Stop there. Look between the two. You notice 12 is in both of them. That's the smallest number. So our least common multiple equals 12. 10 and 12. Let's try a factor tree for this one. Okay. Well, 10 breaks up into 2 and 5. So we have 2 times 5. 12 breaks up into 3 and 4, 3 being prime. Again, I like to circle those. 4, 2, and 2. So we have 3 times 2 times 2, or 3 times 2 squared. Now again, we have to take the, looking back here, the highest power in either prime factorization. So for this, we look at the 2. Well, we have a 2 squared, so that's the highest. We have a 5, and we have a 3. 2 squared is 4, times 5 times 3, which is 20, times 3, which equals 60. So our least common multiple for 12 and 10 is 60. Next one, 25 and 30. Again, I'm going to do a factor tree for this one. So 25 breaks up into 5 and 5, both of those being prime. So 5 squared. 30, I'm going to break up into 5 and 6, 3 and 2, 5 times 3 times 2. Take our highest power of either of them, so 5 squared times 3 times 2, 25 times 3 times 2. 25 times 3 is 75 times 2, which is 150. So our least common multiple, the smallest number that both 25 and 30 multiply into, is 150. All right, so there are our notes for least common multiple. Don't forget that you can always go back and re-watch the video for better understanding. You can go and read examples in the book or do any of the extra personal tutor videos in the resources of the online textbook. Go ahead and head on over to NICU and take your test for that, and make sure to bring your notes to class tomorrow.